What's up, guys? Thank you for tuning in. We are back with another week of the Road Racing 360 show presented by 1833 CJ Knows Accident and Injury Law. And this week, there was not a ton happening in the sport of road racing, but we did see some new KTM MotoGP bikes for both teams. We got an update on the recovery of Marc Marquez, and then we do have a little bit of news from Aprilia testing their new bike for the 2021 season. So we're going to dive into that and let you know what is up. We've got to give a big thank you to our show sponsor, 1833 CJ Knows Accident and Injury Law. If you've been involved in an accident or wrongfully injured, give 1833 CJ Knows a call. They ride, they race, and they know the law. 1833 CJ Knows Accident and Injury Law. So we're going to start with the new KTMs that were released for 2021 in MotoGP. Now, the factory team, they don't look that different really, so I don't want to say I'm disappointed, but I was maybe hoping they would spice it up a little bit, and the factory KTM team didn't really do that, but that's okay. They still look cool. I like how the KTMs look. There's, I guess, really only so much you can do when you have to have a massive Red Bull logo on it, and that's okay. But the Tech 3 team looks a lot different. They look like a true KTM team. Now, Tech 3 lost their Red Bull sponsorship for the factory team, so it's interesting. KTM actually, the manufacturer, puts more money into the Tech 3 team than they do their factory team, just because that's how it worked out with sponsors. So the new KTM for the Tech 3 squad is completely orange. And as you are looking at this picture of it right now, I think it looks pretty cool. It's a little bit different, and it is what a KTM would look like if it wasn't covered with Red Bull for the factory team. So I'm pretty happy with it. It'll be pretty cool to see how it looks around the track, and I'm excited to see how the shakeup with the riders, since they do have Miguel moving up to the factory team and Danilo Petrucci joining Iker Lecuona on the Tech 3 squad. And Brad Binder stays there. He's still with the factory team. But that brand has been making huge strides over the last few years, so it's going to be really interesting to see what differences are made on the internals of the bike rather than just the livery that we've seen. Now, ever since Joan Mir won the MotoGP championship last year, we've been wondering what number he's going to run. So, in many sports, when, say Supercross, for example, when somebody wins the championship, they always seem to run number one the next season. Well, in MotoGP, that trend isn't very consistent. Occasionally we'll see the champion run number one, but more often than not, they don't. So when it came time for Joan Mir to decide if he was going to stick with a 36 or the number one, he decided to go with a 36. While I understand sticking with the number that you are building a brand around, man, if I won a MotoGP championship, I would want to run number one. I mean, that's part of the perks of being the champion, right? You get to run the number one plate. And when they asked him about it, his quote was, "The number will be the same as always. The loyal won the 36. I think it would have been really awesome to use number one, a unique experience and a dream, but I believe 36 is the number with which I've worked hard, and it has taken me to where I am now, winning 2 world championships, Moto3 and MotoGP now. I consider my job is not finished yet. I have to continue working more than ever with this number in order to keep winning more titles and to get more chances to decide on which number I will race with the following season. This doesn't mean that if it happens again, I won't choose number one, but for now it's the 36. The number represents my hard work and suits me best, but it wasn't an easy decision." We have an update on the recovery of Marc Marquez. It has been one of the biggest questions of this MotoGP offseason, if Marc Marquez is going to be able to return to his old self, the guy that, has dominated MotoGP for the last handful of years. And after his crash in the first season, I don't think anybody really expected this to be a problem at that point. A year later, is Marc Marquez going to be able to race? It's such a complicated situation, and with the infections he's had, it's been kind of a worst-case scenario for Marc. We did hear that he had a favorable clinic situation, so they haven't really said what time he's going to be able to get back on track or if he's going to be ready for the first race of the season, but we'll wait for that to happen. And at least we finally got some good news, because it seemed like it was just bad news after bad news for Marc's condition. So hopefully this is a step in the right direction and he is healing. Because if you follow him on Instagram, you've seen he is still training and getting after it, but he's pretty limited in what he can do. We did also see the new Yamaha team release their bikes for the 2021 season. And like KTM, they don't really look all that different, you know, still the same Monster Energy Yamaha with the black and blue and a little bit of blue accent with the lines and whatnot. So, again, I'm not disappointed, but I would hope for them to add some more flavor to it. I mean, sticking with the same designs year after year, to me it gets a little bland. So, hopefully next year at least they'll change it up. But for now, it's going to be the same Yamaha as far as the outside that you're accustomed to. The new bike is going to be closer to what Franco Morbidelli's bike was like last year. And if you remember, Franco was the best Yamaha rider consistently, won 3 races on that bike, and seemed to be really the only guy that was at the front week in and week out throughout the course of the entire season. So as long as they can figure out, you know, and fix that issue that they had with the motor last year, I think they'll be okay. That was a problem that plagued them, but I am sure Yamaha is not going to make that mistake again, because it potentially did cost them a championship. Now, when asked what they had been working on with the 2021 bike, they said, first of all, on improving acceleration, because it can also help us with top speed. For the same reason, for the tests in Qatar, we will have new aerodynamics, which will also serve to improve cooling. Then we have worked on the swing arm and chassis to improve drivability, and we will have a new exhaust. We did not touch the engine, but everything around it. Aprilia is back on track, and they are the only factory to do so far this year. The reason Aprilia is able to get on track and start testing already with their factory riders is due to the fact that they still have concessions left that every other factory no longer has, due to the fact that they've been competitive and winning. Aprilia has struggled over the years, so they haven't quite gotten rid of those concessions that allow them to do more testing. So they are back at it, and Alicia Spargo said that they have a lot of work to do, but they have made some interesting improvements for the 2021 bike. It was said Espargaro managed 177 laps in this test and set his fastest ever lap time at Jerez on Tuesday during their second day of testing. So good news for Aprilia. I would really like to see Aprilia step it up further. I think they have a really talented rider in Alicia Spargo. Their second rider, we still don't know what's going to happen exactly, so we're waiting for more news on that. I'm hoping they fix some of the reliability issues, because I think on the right day that Aprilia could be fighting up closer to the front than it has been, and it would be great to see another manufacturer mixing it up with everybody else. In more news related to a Gresini team, this time not the Aprilia factory MotoGP team that Gresini runs, but their Moto2 and Moto3 team, we did see the livery reveal for both of those squads. And I have to say, I think they look pretty cool. In Moto2, they still have the title sponsor Federal Oil. Rider lineup for that class is Fabio Di Gianantonio and Nicolo Bulega. So it'll be interesting to see them continue on there. And they picked up a new title sponsor for their Moto3 team, Indonesian Racing. So now they're the Indonesian Racing Gresini Moto3 team. So this lineup for the Indonesian Racing Gresini Moto3 team is going to be Jeremy Alcoba and Gabriel Rodrigo. So 2 riders that are talented. I expect them to be fighting up at the front pretty consistently, but that Moto3 class is absolutely ruthless, and that racing is insane, so we'll see how that turns out through this year. But very cool looking bikes. We do have some news from the World Superbike paddock this week, and that is news that the season is now going to start a little bit later than originally planned. Originally, the series was going to start in Assen. That has been pushed back to July, which means that May 7th through the 9th is going to be the first race for World Superbike, and that is going to be in Portugal at Estoril. So typically, the first weekend is in Australia and would be starting up soon, but due to COVID, that's just the way it goes. No. That's all I've got for World Superbike this week. Hopefully we'll get some more updates from some teams that have been testing lately and get you some news coming there next week. This week, though, we do have some bad news from Moto America, and that is that Jason Aguilar, who was originally planning on running a Superbike program for 2021, is now having to pull out before the season even gets started. Jason is a true privateer. You know, he works a full-time job, runs his whole program by himself, and has been doing it pretty successfully. He's won a championship in Moto America already and finished 4th in the Supersport class last year. Now, his plans were to go full-time Superbike racing, step up to the big class, and make it all happen. Now, not sure exactly what happened, but just some new developments have prevented him from doing so. That's a real shame. I was really looking forward to see what Jason could do in the Premier class this year, but it looks like that's going to have to wait until 2022. The good news, I suppose, out of this is that he is planning on being back for 2022, and while he is not racing this year, he is not quitting outright. Hopefully we'll get to see him on a wild card ride at some point throughout the season in some class, but for now, he's going to keep working, training, and being prepared for when the opportunity finally comes. That is all we have this week from the Road Racing 360 show presented by 1833 CJ Knows. I was expecting to have a little bit more news this week from the Moto America paddock as far as some Superbike riders being announced, but that has not quite come out yet. So hopefully next week I will have some news to give you about the developments there. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you would please like, subscribe, share, and tell your friends about the show that we're starting up. That would be fantastic. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Y'all have a great week. We'll see you next episode.